Hello again, Shalom Aleichem. I met a lot of you of Torah Anytime at the Torah Anytime Chanukah party at Beth Gavriel in Forest Hills a week or two ago. So nice meeting you. Now we're here back again doing our Shiurim Motzi Shabbat, and let us talk about what's going to happen this week. On Tuesday will be the fast day of Asara Beteives, the 10th day of Teves. What happened on that day? We'll discuss that. Asara Beteives starts on Monday night, but on Monday night we eat. So all from decent Jews eat on Asara Beteives, because Asara Beteives starts at night and the fast day starts in the morning, 42 or 72 minutes before sunrise, which is like sunrise is 7:15 in the New York area. This time of the year, the latest sunrise possible, 7:15, 7:20. So you can eat until about 6:30. So let's talk about Asara Beteives. You know, in the Jewish year, we have 6 fast days. Black, white, man, woman, long, short. That's how you remember them. My father Zatzal taught me that. Everything in Torah is supposed to be instant recall. Al magam game ba'omer ela omer. Don't stutter and say it, but say it without stuttering. Everything has to be recalled by a remez, acrostics, Rosh Beteives, no trikin, shorthand. That's why the Torah always gives you these letters, these words that, like you have the word USA is an acrostic, or NASA, or anything, or a CPA, or an MD. That's all acrostics. If you want to remember a lot of details, you have to know acrostics. Yak Nahaz, Yain Kiddush Ner Havdalah Zaman, if Yontav comes out Motzi Shabbat. We have to know these things. So black, white, man, woman, and long, short is all the 6 fast days. There's only 6. Black, white, man, woman, long, short. Black, you know what that is. That's the saddest day of the year. That's Tisha B'Av. White, that's the Yom Kippur, when all dressed in white. That's not a sad day. It's a serious day. It's a Yom Tov. Man, that is Som Gedalia. They killed Gedalia. Woman, that's Esther, a month before Pesach. Tanis Esther. Long, that's the longest daytime fast. That's the Shivas of Tammuz. And short, that's coming up this week. Asara Beteives. It's only the daylight hours. Hell, maybe 8 hours the whole fast day, maybe 9 hours the whole fast day. So that's called short, the shortest daytime fast. So out of the 6 fast days, only 2 of them are Tanis Tzibur. A Tanis Tzibur must have 2 characteristics. A Tanis Tzibur must be 24 hours, and you can't wear shoes. The other 4 fast days are not 24 hours, and you do wear shoes. So they're called, the ones coming up this week, and Tanis, and Esther, and Shivas of Tammuz, they're called, and Som Gedalia, they're called Tanis Yochid, a private Tanis that all Jews have accepted. That means it's different than a Tanis Sibur. Tanis Sibur is 24 hours like Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av, and you can't wear shoes. And Tanis Yochid, like the other 4, is a Minig Yisrael that no Jews can break. It's a Tanis Yochid that everybody accepted. And if you break it, and you break a Minig Yisrael, Min Hug, same letters as Gehenna, you eventually will break the basic laws of the Torah and end up in Gehenna. Min Hug Gehenna. And that's how Reform started, and all the other aberrant movements, they broke a little minig, then another minig, and then a little mitzvah they didn't do, then they start doing aveiros, and then it became eventually Rishoyim, Apikorasim, Kofrim, Minim, and Apikorasim. And they eventually, the Reform, forbade Shabbos observance, forbade Bris Milah, forbade Kashrus, and intermarriage was permissible. So it all started with a little break. And Minhag Gehenna. So Asara Beteives, if you're from Jew, you're going to eat Monday night, aren't you? And on the night before Tisha B'Av, Tanis Esther, you also eat, right? So we only fast in the daytime part of Asara Beteives. Let's learn some of the 10 questions of Asara Beteives. 10 questions of Asara Beteives. I have one of these sheets for every fast day, every Yontiv, Every single, about 14 of them, is coming out in a book. It's called Gigantic Little Secrets of the Torah. What you know or don't know about Yom Tovim. Question and answer form. That's the next sefer in the Gigantic Little Secrets sefer series. My sefer, you can get it online at mysefer.com or seforimcenter.com, or you buy it all over the country in bookstores. It's a very interesting sefer on the we're going to learn a few things from the Parshas after we finish these questions. Let's talk about Asara Beteives, one of the fast days. Of the 6 Tanesim we observe, which is the only one that we actually fast for on a Friday? And why? Answer, Asara Beteives. You never fast on a Friday. Erev Shabbos, you don't want to destroy the Shabbos. That means you'll be so hungry that Friday night you'll be ravenous. That's not covered Shabbos, to be ravenous. So any fast day that comes out on a Friday, we push it back to Thursday. Or we push it up to Sunday. Except Asara Beteives. Why? Because the Navi says in Yechezkel 24:2, Be'etzem hayom hazeh, on this self-same day. So it has to be on that day, even Friday. Because it says the word Be'etzem hayom hazeh, which means on this self-same day, the day is not changeable. We read the Torah at Mincha right before Shabbos, Friday afternoon, which is very, very rare. We also fast on Yom Kippur and make a bris if either occurs on Shabbos. If either it or Yom Kippur comes out on the Shabbos, because it says also about Yom Kippur, Be'etzem hayom hazeh. That day you must keep it, even on Shabbos. And Asara Beteives cannot come out on Shabbos, but it could come out on Friday. And the other fast days that comes on Friday, we push off. But Asara Beteives comes on Friday, we fast on Friday. Because it says about Asara Beteives and Yom Kippur, Be'etzem hayom hazeh, on this self-same day. What does the following set of antonyms have to do with fast days? Well, we told you that. Black, white, man, woman, long, short. Number 3, what happened on Asara Beteives? On this date, Nebuchadnezzar, the Babylonian king, began his siege of Yerushalayim at the time of the first Beis HaMikdash for 2.5 years. Earlier, his father, Sancheriv, on the first night of Pesach, brought 185,000 soldiers, including invited guest spectators, to watch the attack on Yerushalayim. The next morning, they wanted to attack in the morning. And the next morning, all 185,000 did not get up. The Malach killed them. Slain by the hand of the Malach Gabriel. Only 5 survived. Him and his 4 sons. Look at Malachim Beis. Yutes Delamed Hay. 185,000 soldiers dropped dead on the first night of Pesach. And they had 2.5 years to prepare for the downfall, which eventually happened. So the next in the series of Asara Beteives was Shivos B'Tammuz. We just separate them by about 6 months, but it was 2.5 years difference. And then 3 weeks later was Tisha B'Av, after Shivos B'Tammuz. That's when the 3 weeks start, and it ends at Tisha B'Av. That's what happened on Asara Beteives. Number 4, the Shulchan Aruch and Siman Tov Kuf Nun, that means 550, Siman 550 says, if any of the 4 Tanesim, fast days, associated with Churban Habayis, 4 of them are associated with the Churban Habayis. Right? 4 of them come out on a Shabbos, they are postponed. Why is this not exactly true? Because the Asara Beteives could never come out on Shabbos. Especially today, since we have a fixed calendar. But it could come out on a Friday, and the others that come out on a Friday, we push them off. Asara Beteives is the only fast day that can come out on a Friday. Actually, there's a little mistake here. You know that? There are 6 fast days. Yom Kippur has nothing to do with the Beis HaMikdash. And the Tanis Esther has nothing to do with the Beis HaMikdash. Okay, very good. So 4 out of 6 is true. The 4 have to do with the Beis HaMikdash. Tisha B'Av, Asara Beteives, Shivos B'Tammuz, and Tzom Gedalia. So 4 of the 6 have to do with the Beis HaMikdash. And Tanis Esther has to do with Persia. It has nothing to do with the Beis HaMikdash. and Yom Kippur has nothing to do with the Beis Hamikdash. It's a Yom Tov, a day of atonement. Which Tanis cancels one of the Sheva Brachas days? Asara Beteives. Because it says, Imlo a'ale es Yerushalayim al Rosh Simchasi. If I don't go up to Yerushalayim on the day of my Simcha, or any one of these 4 days, if they come out, any one of the 4, not Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, any one of the 4 Tanais that come out on your Sheva Brachas days, it cancels the Sheva Brachas days. You just have one less day of Sheva Brachas. Yes.
Isn't it a mitzvah to have Sheva Brachas?
100% right, but this is a national tragedy which cancels out your private Simcha. You could have Sheva Brachas on Seder night, After benching, you take the kos. After Bechat HaMazon, you take the kos, and instead of just making one bracha, you make 7 brachas. If it happens to be that you got married a few days before Pesach, the Sheva Brachas could be Seder night. And it could be the night after Tanis Esther, which is the night of Purim, right? But you could have Sheva Brachas at night after the Megillah. When you come home and eat for the fast, you could have Sheva Brachas. All right. Number 6. Which Tanis is a Yom Tov? Which Tanis was a Yom Tov? Which Tanis will be a Yom Tov? Yom Kippur is a Yom Tov. You say good Yom Tov, don't you? Yom Kippur is 3 things. It's a Shabbos, it's a Yom Tov, and it's a Tanis. It's a Tanis because you fast. It's a Tanis Sibor. It's a Yom Tov because you say good Yom Tov. And it's a Shabbos because you can't do what you can do on a Yom Tov. On Yom Tov you can cook, but not on that Yom Tov. That Yom Tov is a Shabbos. And Shabbos Shabboson is used for Yom Kippur and Shabbos. So Shabbos Yom Kippur is a Shabbos that's a Yom Tov, and it's a Yom Tov that's a Shabbos. It's 3 things. It's a Yom Tov, it's a Shabbos, and it's a Tanis. You say good Yom Tov. You can't do any of the malachas that you could do in Yom Tov. Therefore, it's a Yom Tov, but it's a Shabbos, because you can't do any of the malachas that you could do in Yom Tov. So it's a Shabbos Yom Tov, and it's a Tanis. That's why in Mincha Yom Kippur, when you lay in Mincha, you never lay on a Yom Tov in the afternoon, but you lay on Shabbos in the afternoon. But suppose Yom Kippur came out on Tuesday. Why do you lay in the afternoon? It's not Shabbos. The reason why you lay in the afternoon on Yom Kippur, if it's Monday, Sunday, whatever day it could be, why do you lay in the afternoon? You never lay in any Yom Tov in the afternoon. And let's say it's not Shabbos. Let's say it's Tuesday, Monday, Thursday. So why would you lay in the afternoon of Yom Kippur? Answer is you're laying in the afternoon because it's a Tanis. That's why you do not use the Nigun of Yom Tov, that of the morning Kriya in the afternoon. In the afternoon you use the regular Kriya Satorah because you're laying only because it's a Tanis, not because it's Yom Tov, because you never lay on Yom Tov afternoon. So, Yom Kippur is a Yom Tov. Tisha B'Av will be a Yom Tov. And Tisha B'Av was a Yom Tov in the second Beis Hamikdash. And Tisha B'Av is going to be, after Mashiach comes, it's going to be a Yom Tov. And it was a Yom Tov once during the second Beis Hamikdash. Number 7. What is Bahab? Beis Hey Beis. What is that? What is Shovavim Tat? Shovavim Tat. That's starting next week. What is that? What is a Tanis Dibur? A Tanis of the mouth, of speech. What is that? What is a Tanis Chalom? A Tanis of a dream. What is Yom Kippur Katan? Little Yom Kippur. Well, Bahab is, these are all fast days, by the way. Bahab, Shovavim Tat, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Shovavim Tat. They have to stand for certain words. They're fast days. Tanis Dibur, that's a fast day. Tanis Chalom is a fast day. And Yom Kippur Katan is a fast day. Let's take a look. Monday, Thursday, Monday. Bahab. Monday, Thursday, Monday. Beis, Hey, Beis. On the month following 2 of the 3 Shalosh Regolim. After Pesach, after that month ends, the next month, after Rosh Chodesh, you fast the first Monday, Thursday, Monday. For the Averas you might have done on Pesach last month. Because on Pesach, Sukkot, and Shavuos, people get together and they socialize. And Could be a little bit hanky-panky going on during the thousands of millions of people, they meet each other, and maybe people are socializing a little too much. So you fast on a Monday, Thursday, Monday after Pesach, and after Sukkot, not after Shavuos, because Shavuos has no Chol Hamoed, it's only one day. So they don't socialize that much. So Bahab is what you fast Monday, Thursday, Monday, in the month after Pesach, and the month after Sukkot. For possible social indiscretions during Yom Tov. Shavuos has no Chol Hamoed, therefore Bahab, there isn't after any Bahab after Shavuos. Now, the second part. What is Shovavim Tap? After we finish this Parsha Vayechi and the Sefer Bereshis, we start Shemos. Shovavim stands for Shemos. These are the first 7 or 8 Parshas in Shemos. Shemos, Shovavim Tat. Shemos, Ba'era, Bo, B'Shalach, Yisro, Mishpatim, Teruma, Tetzaveh. What are these 8 weeks? The Thursdays only, following these 8 Parshios in the Torah, for the next 2 months, 8 Parshios is 8 weeks, right? 2 months. The Thursdays following these, starting with the letters Shovavim Tat, means Shemos, Va'era, Bo, B'Shalach, Yisro, Mishpatim, Teruma, Tetzaveh. Starting with Shemos, we fast because the Egyptian tragedies described in the Egyptian tragedies described in these parshas. They enslaved them, they beat them, they killed them. So we want to hope that never happens to us again. So on the 8 weeks following these 8 Seders, we fast on a Thursday only and half a day. Yes.
Is this a custom?
This is a minhag, it's not a din. The Hasidim are very makpid in this, and they're praiseworthy because of that. And some people many Ashkenazim used to fast Shovavim Tat. And some people only fast Shovavim, not Tat. Teruma Tetzaveh has really nothing to do with the slavery of the Jews in Mitzrayim. It depends how the year falls out. What is Tanis Dibur? Some people don't speak for 24 hours on Shabbos. Some people don't speak from the beginning of Shabbos to after Kiddush. To make up the Averos during the week of Lashon Hara. A self-imposed Tanis Yochid of speech for tshuva due to verbal indiscretions. What is Tanis Chalom? If you had a very, very bad dream Friday night, and you're so disturbed, the only way you can enjoy Shabbos is doing tshuva, fasting. You're allowed to fast on Shabbos for a dream you had Thursday night. So suppose you had a bad dream Monday night or Wednesday night. How come only Thursday night? Well, some people, big tzaddikim, didn't go to sleep during the week, only Friday night. And they had a large meal, and maybe that brought along some dreams or nightmares, so they were so scared, terrible. It's about very scary things, that terrible things you dream about. You want to do tshuva right away. You can even fast on Shabbos. So you're allowed to fast on Shabbos. It's called Tanis Chalom. A self-imposed fast for a very disturbing dream. It is Shabbos day fast for a Friday night bad dream. And what is Yom Kippur Katan? Some people fast every Erev Rosh Chodesh, the day before Rosh Chodesh. Yom Kippur Katan, a small Yom Kippur. A monthly fast on Erev Rosh Chodesh, except for Erev Rosh Chodesh Iyar, because of Nisan. You're not allowed to fast in the month of Nisan. So therefore, you can't fast Rosh Chodesh Iyar, because it comes out on Nisan. And Erev Rosh Chodesh Beteives, because that always comes out on Chanukah. You're not allowed to fast on Chanukah. Which Tanis is the weakest halachically? Well, you know it's not Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur. So which one of the 4 is the weakest halachically? Of the 4, 3 of them are an Isur D'Rabbanan. One is only a minhag of the Rabbanan, because the 3 of the 4, something bad happened on Asara Beteives and Shivat B'Tammuz and Tom Gedalia. But on Tanis Esther, nothing did happen, thank goodness. But it could have. Therefore, it's only a minhag, and therefore they're the most makel, least, the weakest of all the Tanasim, which means that a person has a little headache, he can eat a little bit. A bit if a woman feels that she's pregnant, she doesn't feel so good, she can eat right away. But other Tanasim, you have to suffer a little bit. But Tanis Esther, you can be makel, mostly makel on Tanis Esther, because it's the weakest of all, because it's not an Isser, it's only a minhag. Because nothing really happened that day. Number 9. On which Tanis is there greater severity than Yom Kippur? Tisha B'Av, because you're not allowed to cool yourself or enjoy yourself with a damp cloth on Yom Kippur because you might squeeze out the water. But on Tisha B'Av, but you are allowed to cool yourself with a damp cloth on Yom Kippur if you wring it out before. You're allowed to have pleasure on Yom Kippur. But on Tisha B'Av, you're supposed to be miserable, unhappy, and uncomfortable. So you cannot cool yourself on Tisha B'Av if there's no water in the cloth. Even though it's cool, you put it in the refrigerator. You can't do that. You're supposed to be miserable on Tisha B'Av. That's right. No washing, no nothing. For 3 weeks you can't take a shower except the Erev Shabbos. You're supposed to feel miserable and horrible because the tragedy happened to us. And on Tisha B'Av itself, you're supposed to feel miserable. Well, in Yom Kippur, if it's very, very hot, you can cool yourself with a damp cloth if you don't squeeze it out. But Tisha B'Av you cannot. So therefore, for as far as pleasure is concerned, Tisha B'Av is more severe than Yom Kippur, which means you really shouldn't sit in the air conditioning on Yom Kippur. That's what it really means. It's a day of sadness, unhappiness. You sit on the floor, you don't wear shoes. It's extreme unhappiness. On Tisha B'Av, no form of pleasure is allowed, but Yom Kippur you can enjoy yourself. Also on Tisha B'Av you sit low, and Talmud Torah is Asar. You don't sit low on Yom Kippur, and the Talmud Torah is not Asar on Yom Kippur. Yes?
It seems that all these restrictions, for the 3 weeks, by Tisha B'Av and all that, it seems like a lot of people are very distant from having a real connection to Tisha B'Av. The day comes, the day goes.
Your question has been asked 100 years ago. How come, by 120 years ago, how come people have no more feeling for Tisha B'Av? It comes and it goes. You get in your air-conditioned car, you sit in your air-conditioned house. How come you don't have any feeling? Because we're dead. We live in plush surroundings, air conditioning, cars and houses, carpets, everything. We are so tuned out to tragedy, we cannot show any empathy for previous doors. No wonder our brains have shrunk to pea sizes. We need translation for everything because we can't remember anything. We don't have the compassion to cry. The fact that you don't cry on Tisha B'Av is the saddest thing in the world, because we don't feel anything. We're so far removed from this. Except the more you learn Torah, the more you start feeling for other people. And if you live in the lap of luxury, you're removed from reality, because your feelings are turned off. You don't have such feelings for other people anymore. What can you do? You say it's the act of God. Yeah, but why don't you help your fellow man? Why don't you know ol im chaveiro? Why don't you feel for him more than you do? The more Torah you learn, the more human you become, by the way. Some people want to be Homo sapiens, some want to be human beings. It's a very big difference. Now we come to something very shocking. Number 10. Sort of Beteives. 10, right? So 10 questions. What other two number 10. What other two tragedies happened on Teves? On the 8th of Teves, Asara of Beteives is the 10th of Teves. That's the fast day. On the 8th of Teves, 2 days before, there was the Greek translation of the Torah. That was a tragedy. It's called the Septuagint. When Talmai HaMelech took 70 Chachamim into 70 different buildings and told them, write Moshe's Torah by heart. So they all wrote it, and God put in their brain 13 different alterations they could make, because that guy would not understand something in the Torah that he would find personally insulting. So they had changed 13 things. So that guy would get furious if he saw certain things in there. So they made him change it. It's called Targum Shivim, the Targum of the 70. That was in Greek times, way down in the time of the second base of English. On the 9th, Ezra HaSofer, who is like Moshe Rabbeinu in his generation, brought all the Jews back and rebuilt Bayis Sheni. He died on the 9th. Ezra HaSofer died. Look at end of Megillas Tanis. Also, Oso Ha'ish, J.C., the founder of that religion, Yeshu, was born on the 9th day of Teves, which means tomorrow, Monday. On the 10th of Teves, Nehemiah died, Ezra's friend, Nehemiah. Note, Ezra and Nehemiah built the second base of Mikdash. Where did you find this? That Osa Ha'ish, that man, Yeshu, was born, not like they say the 25th of December. Maybe it did come out that year. A week ago we had the 25th of December. So maybe the 25th of December came out on the 9th day of Teves. It's not so far apart. It's a week or so. Where did you see that? Well, in Megillus Tainus, this is the first sefer written after the Gemara, Megillus Tainus. It says at the end, Megillus Tainus Perik Acharon, it says, Betesbo, on the 9th day, Lo Kosvu Rabbeinu Alma. They didn't write why, but they said that something bad happened. Betesbo, it says in Megillus Tainus, on the 9th day, Lo Kosvu Rabbeinu Alma. They didn't write why, but something bad happened. And it was JC's birthday, but they didn't want to write that because there was censoring this. So, the Kolbo Shom, Megalas Sod, he tells us a secret, Lomer, to be Bo Hayom, on that day, Meis Ezra HaKohen, and Nehemiah ben Hachiloi, the two who built the second bayit, with Sefer Yuchsin, and the Sefer Yuchsin, Ba'agos, Shin, Isa, the Meis Ezra HaSofer Bo, the Yud Beteives, on the 10th of Teves, not the 9th. Sefer HaKabolam, Laharayvot, Isa is brought, Shekabano Baruch HaKodesh, Leviyom, they figured out by Baruch HaKodesh, Leyom Shenegra Rabbi Yosef Halevi, he was killed on that day. Ein Shom Ba'arichas, it goes into a long, lengthy discussion. But Shomati says the Tosfos Chadoshim in Megillus Tainus, I have heard Mishem Godel Echad, one very big Godel, the Oz that day, the 9th or the 10th, Nolad Osa Ha'ish, that man was born. The greatest destroyer of Jews. The birthday of JC. And that could have come out on 12/25, what they call 12/25, but it was only a week apart or so. It was maybe 8-10 days apart. So that happened to come out on the 9th day of Teves. Now we have a bonus question. In Parshas Vayishlach, last week, Parsha, 2 weeks ago, Parsha, it says, Al kain lo yochlu b'nei Yisrael's gid hanosha. Therefore, the Jewish people should not eat the gid hanosha. There's more than 2 weeks ago, 3-4 weeks ago. It says that Yaakov was fighting with the angel of Esav, and he saw he couldn't kill him, so he punched him in the hip, and he knocked out his hip and dislocated the hip. And therefore, and if your hip is dislocated, your sciatic nerve is dislocated, and you can't walk and everything. So the gid hanosha is a sciatic nerve. So he said he dislocated his sciatic nerve. So the Torah says, therefore, Jews shouldn't eat gid hanosha. The sinew, the sinew hanosha that jumped out. Where in this pasuk do we find a remez for the 6 days a year we cannot eat? It says over there, don't eat something, the gid hanosha. From there we find a remez, you don't eat 6 times a year. What is that? Listen to this, Rabbi Yosef. Es gid hanosha. Es, aleph tov, gid, gimel yud dalid. You can see all es gid. You see all this 6 fast days. Es aleph is Esther. Es tov, right, is Tisha B'av. Gid is Gedalia. Yud is Yom Kippur. And Yud is also a 10th day of Teves. And Dalid, Gid, is the 4th month, which is Tammuz. And which day in Tammuz? Gimel Yud Dalid, Gid, is 17, the 17th day of Tammuz. So here are the fast days. Esther, Tisha B'av, Gedalia, Yom Kippur, Teves, and Dalid, which is the 4th month, Tammuz. And which day of the 4th month? Gimel Yud Dalid, 17th of the 4th month. Doing Nisan year, Sivan Tammuz. So, 4th day of the 17th day of the 4th month. Now let us go into the Parshas Vayechi. Vayechi Yaakov Be'eretz. This is the last sefer Chumash. No, the last Parsha and the first sefer of the Torah. It's the 12th Sedra because Bereshis has 12, and therefore that means to say 3 months ago was Simchas Torah. Vayehi, this Shabbos will be 3 months from Simchas Torah. Vayechi Yaakov and Yaakov live Be'eretz Mitzrayim in the land of Egypt. Shavayas Ve'eshon is 17 years. Vayechi Yemei Yaakov, and the years, there was the days of Yaakov, Shnei Chayav, the years of his life, which means he lived every day fully, the days that made up the years of his life, Sheva Shonim, 7 years, Va'arboim, and 40, Umah Shana, and 147 years. Now all the of us were supposed to live 180. Avram lived 5 years less, 175, because Hashem didn't want him to see his grandson, Esav, is going letarbus ro'ah, to a bad culture. So when Esav was 15, Avram was 175. So Hashem took away his life 5 years from 180, because all the others were supposed to live 10 times chai, which is 180. So he did Avram a favor by taking him away 175. He shouldn't see his grandson Esav become a Rosh Gomer. And that was the day when Avram died, and Esav came from the field and says, "Give me some of that red stuff you're cooking up," because Yaakov had to cook up some lentil porridge for his father Yitzchak, who was the son of Avram, because Avram died, and therefore Yitzchak was an ovel, and the ovel, the first food he has to eat, has to be made by other people. And nowadays we eat hard-boiled egg because it has no opening, no mouth. It's the only food in the world that has no pit, no place. Every single vegetable and fruit has a pit where there's an opening. There's only one food that has absolutely no opening. It's smooth. It's an egg. It's a food. You know why? Because an ovel eats that. And why hard-boiled? Because the egg is the only food in the world that the more you cook it, the harder it gets. Everything else, the more you cook it, the softer it gets. Carrots, meat, everything gets softer, except the eggs get harder. Which means when Hashem gives you some hard sorrows to carry, you get tougher and harder. The more you beat a person, the harder and tougher and more strong he gets. The more you beat a punching bag, the stronger you get. The more Hashem punishes you, the stronger and more resolute you get. So Hashem takes away a young child or a wife or a young parent, you have to be able to grin and bear it. The more he gives you, the tougher you get. That's why the menorah that represents life and learning, and the more you have to beat it, it says in the Mishnah. You beat the menorah out of gold. The more you beat it, the brighter is the light. The longer the Jews stay in Gullus, the more pure souls you get out. Oh, a lot of people can't handle it, but those who remain are the pure souls. So, an egg is round, because Misa comes to everybody, it goes around. And the more you punish a person, the tougher he gets. In those days, they ate lentils, because lentils also have no opening. It's smooth, and it's round. And Esav says, "Give me that red stuff." And he said, "Why are you making this red stuff?" He says, "Granddad died, and our father Yitzchak is an ovel. We have to serve him Sudas Havro'ah, the first suda you give to an ovel." That was when he was 15, and that day he raped somebody, killed 2 people, and raped somebody. And there was a thief, and he was starting to become evil. So Avram died at 175. Yitzchak lived 10 times high, 180. And Yaakov lived only 147. Because he was supposed to live 180, but Hashem took away 33 years. And 180 minus 33 is 147. Let's take a look. So, Vayikru Yemei Yisrael Lemus, and it came close the days of Yisrael to die. Whenever it says Vayikruvu, means they came near, close, quick, Korov, quick. It means none of the people, wherever they use the word Vayikruvu, lived as long as their father. Because you see that Yaakov lived 145, and Yitzchak lived 180. And it says David lived, Vayikruvu Yemei David Lemus. David also, his days came by to die. So he didn't live as long as his father. Yishai lived 80, or 400, according to one. So how come Terach lived 205 and Avram lived only 175? And it does not say by Avram, but Yikravu? Answer. This idea of you're not living as long as your father only applies to tzaddikim. Terach was the Ovid of Adazorah. At the end he became a Baal Tshuva. But if you don't live a whole life of tzidkus, this rule doesn't apply. Now, Vayechi is Gematria 34. So they want to say out of his 147 years, and we'll tell you in a minute why he lost 33 years. Why he lost 33 years? Because he complained to Pharaoh with 33 words. I had a miserable life. You shouldn't have said that to Pharaoh. He used 33 words. So 33 from 180 is 147. He lived to 147. Yaakov. But he says his real good life was only 34 years. 17 years that when he came to Mitzrayim until he died, 130 to 147. In 17 years he had no worries at all. That was good life. And where's the other 17 to make 34? It says by the time he had finished working for his wives, 14 years, now he worked for himself for love, for 6 years. Nobody harassed him. He became a multi-millionaire when he left 6 years later. 6 years are good. Where's the other 9 good years? Because 9 and 6 is, where's the other 10, 11 years? So 11 and 6 is 16, right? Well, a year and a half on the road coming home. And then he had a peaceful life until Yosef was sold by his brothers. And Yosef then was 17, because Yosef came back when he was 8. And 9 and 8 is 17. So he had 17 good years from after he left, from the 6 years after he worked off the 14 years. The 16 year worked for himself, became a millionaire. And he came back, and then he lived 9 years peacefully until the brothers sold Yosef. So he had 17 years there, and the 17 years in Mitzrayim. That's the 34 years. And the rest of his life was, he said, miserable. Rabbi Yosef, we got a big problem here. You say the first 17 years were pleasant? First 6 years working for Lavan, after he worked for Lavan, he became a multi-millionaire working for his own herd. Very good. Very nice. 6 years. You stayed in Lavan's house 20 years, 14 and 6. Very good. But on the way back, those year and a half, that was pleasant. Lavan attacked him, wanted to kill him. He wanted to kill Yaakov and his own children, his 4 daughters, and all the 11 grandkids. Wanted to kill him and his son-in-law Yaakov. That's called pleasant? Yes, because the night before he came to Yaakov, Hashem came to Lavan and says, watch your step. Don't talk to him, good or bad. So, next day the encounter was pleasant because he knew he couldn't touch him. Fine. A few days later, a year and a half, took him a year and a half to come home. A year and a half later, Esav comes with 400 soldiers. I'm going to kill you. And he runs up to Yaakov. Yaakov was petrified, but he was not petrified. Because the night before he had just defeated Esav's angel, Samuel. He knew that Esav wouldn't touch him. Esav ran over to him to bite his neck and kill him. And he changed his mind the last nanosecond and he kissed him. And Yaakov knew that's going to happen because the night before his representative in Shemayim, the Malach, he defeated him. So there's no problem. On that trip home, what about Dinah? She was ma'anes, she was abused by Shechem. That's called living 17 pleasant years. Well, Rabbi Shechem abused Dinah. And the brothers took care of the problem. They said, you want to marry our daughter? No problem, boys. Have a bris milah and then we'll all be fine, hunky-dory. You marry our family, we'll marry your family. And they said, oh, it's a good idea. And all the people of Shechem agreed with the mayor of Shechem, that's Mr. Shechem. And they all had a bris milah. And on the third day, when they were the weakest, they got their heads cut off by the 12-year-olds. Shimon and Levi wiped out the entire town. So all Messiah loved Averu because they all agreed with him. Instead of stoning their leader who raped a woman, they agreed with him. They're all guilty by association. Problem solved in 3 days. So there's no problems for the first 17 years. And the last 17 years for sure, then it was that Yosef was sold 22 years of misery, but the last 17 years of his life from 130 to 147 was all right. So you have 17 and 17, 34. Vayechi, he really lived only 34 good years. Now, Rabbi Yosef, this is a dilemma. Until he got the brachos from his brother, from his father, and tricked his brother, he was 63 years old. They were good years, 63. He wasn't harassed by anybody. 63 years. No problem. Why don't you figure them into the good years? What do you mean by Vayechi? He only lived 34 years. 63 years sitting and learning Torah. Then he went away 14 years in yeshiva, 77 years without Torah learning, without any harassment. That's not figured in good years. Now we're going to learn one of the gigantic little secrets of the Torah. Sitting in the base medrash and learning without being tested is not good years. That's only prep for the test. Good years is when you go out and win the battle. That's good. When you're sitting in yeshiva, which is wonderful. But now we're going to test you to see if you believe what you learned. 63 years and then 14 years in Shem V'Aver till you're 77. Wonderful. What's the where is the test if you live in Borough Park or Flatbush or Muncie or where's the test? And you're around from people and you only eat kosher and you have kosher restaurants and you have Shabbos and where's the test? But if you live somewhere in Missouri or in Texas, or somewhere where no Jews are, then we'll find out if you're a good Jew. So they're not considered good years. Good years is when you are subject to a test and you win. So he had 17 years after he was harassed, and while he was being harassed, and they were good years. In Mitzrayim too, he did not slide downhill and assimilate from the age of 130 to 147. So he had 34 very good years. The last 13, the last 17 were no harassment at all. And after he was working for himself for love and coming home, those little problems were taken care of. He had 34 good years of his life where he passed all the tests. And so he got close to his days of dying, which means to say he was there 2-3 years. At 132, he said, I want to bless you before I die, he told his children. How do you know when you're going to die? In fact, it says a few books later, many years later, they told Yosef, your father's sick. And that's when he really died. So this is 15 years before. But Yikavru Yemei Yisrael Lamus, he was about 132. He was in Mitzrayim already. He just came at 130. It's like 2 or 3 years later. Why would he think at 132 he's going to die? Why? When it says here a few pasukim later, many years later, then he really got sick to die. So why would you think he's going to die now? Chazal tell us when you come within 5 years of your mother and father's death, you should worry. Maybe you're going to go too. Which means 5 years before or 5 years after. Which means 10 years of your life you got to worry. Maybe you're going to die when the same period your parents died. So comes out that his mother Rivka died at 132. And now he's 132. How is that possible? Well, Rivka was married by Yitzchak when she was 14. When he had their Katie, he was 37. 3 years later, he got married at 40. When he was about to be killed at this Akedah, his mother Sarah died. Her neshama went into this child, Rivka. She was 11, said the Medrash HaGadol. 3 years later, she was 14 when he married her. So she had a 3-year-old neshama. That's what you mean. She was 3 years old. When a ger is 50 years old, becomes or 20 years old, becomes a ger, he gets a brand new neshama. So when Sarah died, her neshama went into that daughter of Lavan, a sister of Lavan, called Rivka. She was 11, says the Medrash. And then he married her, she was 14. So now you take 14, 11, and 3 is 14. And then 20 years he didn't have children, she's 34. And then Yaakov was born, and then when he was 63, she was 97. And then 14 years he worked he went to the yeshiva, and she was 111. And then 20 years he worked for Lavan, 14 for Lavan, and 6 for himself. She was 132. And on the way home, that year and a half, she died at 133 and a half. So she was 132, 133. So Yaakov, now he's 132. So he's getting worried. Maybe he's going to die, which means he was now 132. But he died at 147, so he had another 14 years. So B'yikru, when it came close, he made Yisrael Lamuz. He quickly, Yosef, he called his son Yosef Yomelom. If I have found favor in your eyes, which means you asked me all these years to do favors for me, and I don't want any favors from because I'm the father of the king. I don't want any favors. I don't want any favors, no special treatment, because people will say, you know what, he lives so good and eats so well because his son is the king. I don't want them to say that. Now, if you really want to do me a favor, I have one request. Yes, one. If I have found favor in your eyes, put your hand under my hip. That was the way in the olden days people used to swear. Put your hand under my hip, which means I'm sitting on you. I'm relying you will do my request. That was symbolism. Do with me chesed and emes. Chesed, loving kindness, and emes means you're not going to get paid, because once a person dies, he can't pay you back. That's what I want of you. Do not bury me in Mitzrayim. Because he saw by Nevuah that many 200 years later, there would be 10 plagues, and one of them is, third plague is kinim, lice, and he didn't want there's lice crawling under his body. He doesn't like them tickling his flesh. And number 2, he doesn't like the idea of not being buried in Eretz Yisrael, because if you have when Tchias HaMesim comes, the resurrection of the dead, they only come out of the Eretz Yisrael ground. So what if you're buried in some other country? You have to roll in tunnels, Gilgul Mecholos, and then you come up in Eretz Yisrael. But he doesn't want Tsar Gilgul, he says. I don't want to roll. And number 3 is they're going to make me into a god anyhow, because I stopped the hunger, and they're going to probably bury me in a pyramid and deify me. I don't want that. Get me out of here. Now, put your hand under my ear. Vayechi is the way we explained it is the way Hershey explains it. However, it's a euphemism. It means you should hold on to the bris milah, because it says in the Gemara, when a person used to swear with God's name, not ado, they said the real word yud kei vav kei, they have to put their hand on the Sefer Torah or a pair of tefillin or anything holy. So this was the holiest part of Yaakov's body. That organ that causes the most trouble in the world is the holiest thing to a Jew, because you make a bracha on it, and it's the holiest organ we have. We don't put a mark on any part of our body that we're Jewish except there. That's a symbol that we are attached to God and we control our types. That's the difference between us and them. So that's a euphemism, a lashon saginor. So do with me chesed emes. Emes means the 3 things you do for a dead person. Aleph means Aron. You got to build an Aron. Mem is mito. You got to make us carry him. And Tuf is tachrichim. You got to make shrouds. Some say it means hesped and kavura and hesped, kavura, and the 3rd thing, something 3, another thing. All right, and don't bury him in Mitzrayim. V'shachavti mavosai, when I die, not burial. That's something else. But shachavti mavosai, when I lie down with my forefathers, because when you die, you drop down, you lay down, and burial something else. But shachavti mavosai, when I die, when the sasani mi Mitzrayim, take me out of Mitzrayim, ukvartani, and then bury me b'kvura some in their kavura in Kiryas Arba and Hebron, which is called Ma'aras HaMachpelah. The double cave where Adam Rishon is buried and his wife, Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, and Yaakov and Leah. I'll do exactly what you told me. She says, Yaakov said, I'm not satisfied with that. Why wouldn't you trust a tzaddik? Yosef is the ultimate tzaddik. Yosef ha-tzaddik. Moshe Rabbeinu, he's the ultimate teacher. David HaMelech, he's the ideal king. Why wouldn't you trust a tzaddik? But Yomi says, Yishavali, swear to me. Use God's name. Doesn't mean I swear. It means you got to use God's name. And every Jew knows if you use God's name falsely, you'll die. And that's why in the Gemara, when they make a Jew swear, you could be an awful low Jew, but you will never use God's name in vain, because you know what could happen. Because if a guy will swear, I don't owe you anything, and like it says in the Gemara, Baba Kama, Baba Sia, Baba Basra, and you can believe him. Nobody's going to use God's name in vain. Because when God said at Sinai, don't use God's name in vain, the entire universe was trembling. So it says in the Mefarshim say, V'yom he swear to me, he said to Yosef, but Yeshavalo, he swore to him. Which means Yosef started to shake all over. And he bowed down to the head of the bed, which means he thanked God he has the bed, which means a euphemism for 12 tzaddikim children. Or some say the Shekhinah is on top of the head of a choles. Towards the pillow, he turned around and bowed down to the Shekhinah, because in every sick person, the Shekhinah is above you. Therefore, when you come to visit a sick person, never sit on his bed. You're not allowed to sit on a place with the Shekhinah. You're not allowed to sit on a chair that's higher than the bed even. And he bowed down to the Rosh Hamita, either to the Shekhinah or thank God that he had 12 children tzaddikim. Now, it says that when Yosef started to tremble, he knew for sure this is a tzaddik. Why? Because tzaddikim never use God's name. And why don't you trust a tzaddik? Answer is yes, he trusts Yosef, but Yosef happened to be the king of the country, and Pharaoh is superior to him, and Pharaoh could put pressures on him. I don't want your father, I won't permit it. I'll get the whole Egyptian army against you. You are not taking him out of here. So he says, swear to me. Means put your life on line to get me out of here, which means you're going to have to give your life for this. When Yosef said, I'll do it, that means there's no ifs and buts. Nif, ors, and buts. Then he saw for sure Yosef is a tzaddik. Up to now, it says in Targum Yonas, and Yosef covered up his whole religiosity. The real, true tzaddikim cover up every single thing of holiness. A real tzaddik is like an iceberg. 1% revealed, 99% concealed. The more from you are, more religious, the more you cover. And the more you expose it, it's like a show business. My father used to say, a man that shows his religiosity by the dress and by the movements and by the talk, and he shows it openly, all the holy shtick. He said it's like a thermos bottle. If you touch a thermos bottle on the outside and it's hot, you know it's cracked. Because a thermos bottle is not hot on the outside. It's only hot on the inside. But once it's hot on the outside, the inside is burst. It's nothing. There's some people that do this show business, Yiddishkeit. It's not the real thing. Most of it is covered up. Yaakov thought, he assumed Yosef is a tzaddik. He had no proof until this moment. Then he saw he's dealing with the real article. The tzaddik Yesod Olam, the greatest tzaddik in the world is Yosef HaTzaddik. Yes.
Did Yaakov expect Yosef to give up his life?
Yes, for this.
Isn't this a case where you're not supposed to give up your life?
Very good. He swear to me, he says. It means do everything you can to get me out of here. And that means Yosef could have lost his job or been jailed or been arrested or been something. It means he tells Yosef, go to the nth degree. I want to be out of here. And he took this deadly serious, Yaakov. And Yosef had the fortune that Pharaoh found favor in his eyes because Yosef is a tzaddik. Tomim, he sent the entire Egyptian army with Yosef. With the honor guard like you have never seen before. So, let's finish a little bit more, and then we're going to finish. When it says acharei as opposed to achar, acharei means long way, many years later, which means when he was 147, 15 years later. He said, you know your father's sick? He took his two sons with him, Menashe and Ephraim. And it was told to Yaakov, your son Yosef is coming. To you. And Yisrael strengthened himself. And he sat al rosh al hamita on the bed. Instead of laying down, he sat up because it says there's no mitzvah for a father to mechaber the son. There's only mitzvah in the Seres and Dibros to honor your father and mother, but not for your children. There's no mitzvah. But he's the melech. I have to do it. Wow. And the Gemara tells us, until Yaakov, nobody was sick ever. You one day were healthy, and next day you dropped dead. Tanya, we learned in the Brayisa, until Yaakov, there's nobody got sick. Also, Yaakov came and he prayed to God, please give me a chance, give me a sign that I can do tshuva the last days and put my house in order and give me a chance, to settle things. So, which means, do me a chesed, let me be sick for a few weeks or months. Until Yaakov, nobody ever got sick. One day you're here, next day you drop dead. He became sick. You told your father was sick. Surprise! We never had sickness. We never had that before. And you know that we learned earlier, a few months ago, until Abraham, everybody looked old. A 30-year-old boy looked like a 150-year-old man. They looked the same. So in order, as Abraham prayed to God, please make old people look old. So then, when a person comes in, he'll give respect to the father before he says Shalom Aleichem to the son. Because the father should have more cover than the son. But the people looked at a 20-year-old boy and a 100-year-old man, they looked the same. So until Avram, there was no such thing as zikna, age. Yeah, you got older, but you didn't notice it. So therefore, in order to give cover for a father, any older person, you make a person look old. Until Avram, there was no zikna. Until Yaakov, there was no chulshal, weakness, sickness. So he sat up on the end of the bed. Okay. If you go visit the sick person, it takes away 1/60th of the man's sickness. You know that? So if you visit him 60 times, he won't be sick anymore? No. When you visit Bikur Cholim, it takes away 1/60th. And then you visit him again, or someone else visits him, takes away another 60th of what's left. And then another 60th of what's left. And you never get to the bottom, because the 60th of a 60th of a 60th of a 60th, you never get to the bottom, but it definitely weakens, it takes away the sickness of the man. And we said last week, when you stretch your legs and take Pasiya Gaso, it takes away a 50th of your eyesight. So as Yosef said, when you go back to Father and tell him I'm still alive, don't rush. Al tirgazu b'derech, and don't take a b'siya gasa, don't take big steps, because by stretching your legs you will affect your sight. A b'siya gasa, long acrobats and athletes probably have bad eyesight, because it takes away a 50th of your eyesight. The way, how do you retrieve that? By looking at the Friday night Hanukkah, Friday night lights, or the Havdalah candle, or he retrieves the lack of eyesight by rushing around. And going to a Bikur Cholim takes away a 60th of the sickness, and which means you relieve him a little bit of his suffering. And in fact, you can learn it from the word Hamita, because Hamita is 59, and the word is 1/60th. So when you visit a person who's laying in a bed, which means a sick person, you take away 1/60th of the sickness. All right, Rabbi Yosef, I think we're finished. Have a good week. And we'll see you again next week. It was nice seeing you last week at the Hanukkah party at Torah Anytime. But if you want to hear more of these shiurim, every day you can tune in Kol Haloshon in New York or anywhere in the country or in the world. And there's a lot of people giving shiurim, but mine is a daily shiur in Chumash. So you can learn Monday and Tuesday and Wednesday if you tune in on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday on Kol Haloshon. And if you go in Torah Anytime, you can see it. Have a good week.